Okay, let's talk cars. And no, I don't mean cars that you drive, I mean controlled articular rotations, which is essentially a fancy way of saying moving your joints through their entire range of motion every single day as a form of joint hygiene, keeping them healthy. Think of your joints as sponges. If you don't wring out a sponge and you leave the same water in it day in and day out, what happens to that sponge? It gets moldy, it gets nasty, right? The same thing happens with our joints if we don't move them. Essentially, they degenerate faster than they normally would. So osteoarthritis can actually be an underuse syndrome rather than overuse. So today I'm going to start by going over cervical cars. So we're going to be doing rotations with our neck. And in the upcoming days, I'm going to release videos about each individual body part so I can break it down in a way that you can understand. So to begin, we're going to start by dropping our chin to our chest. We're going to rotate to one direction as far as we can, and then we're going to tilt back, looking up at the sky. Tilt the other way. Keep that rotation. And then we'll go in the other direction. And you'll do that 3 times in each direction. A little bit of clicking or popping is totally normal, but if you do have any pain in certain ranges of motion or positions, don't completely avoid them, but don't push too hard into them. Try to skirt the edge of that painful position, and as you do it more often, because you'll be doing these every day, that range of motion will improve and the pain will decrease. Again, we're trying to isolate movement at an individual body part and try to move those joints through their entire range of motion. So today we're going to be going over the thoracic spine, the mid-back, which is a part of the body that gets neglected. It doesn't get a whole lot of movement, especially when we work at a desk. So to start with our controlled articular rotations, we're going to cross our arms over our chest. And I'll do this from the side so you can see a bit better. But we're going to flex forward just at the thoracic spine. Then we'll turn, rotate up, sternum towards the sky, rotate all the way, and back down. Couple key points with these controlled articular rotations of the thoracic spine. Don't let the lumbar spine move. Again, we're trying to isolate movement at the thoracic spine, so you don't want extension or flexion happening at the lumbar spine. The same goes for the neck. It's kind of harder because you're going to want to move your neck to guide the movement, but try to isolate the movement at the thoracic spine as much as you can. So we're going to start with our palms forward, completely extended, flexion, rotate, extension, rotate back. That's one. To go in the other direction, start with your palms back in extension, flexion, rotate, extension. So you'll do that 3 times in each direction. So 3 times starting with the palms out, 3 times starting with the palms back. The wrists are pretty simple as well. So we're going to be doing circles, similarly to the spine. So we're going to keep our fingers straight just to keep us honest so that we're not going like this instead of moving at the wrist. And I like to hold my forearm so that I'm not supinating and pronating along with it. Again, I want to isolate that movement at the carpal bones, not at the radius and the ulna. So we're just making as big of a circle as we can with each wrist. And I'll do the same thing on both sides, 3 times in each direction, every single day. These ones shouldn't get you sweating, but a lot of people do have decreased wrist mobility, so don't neglect them. Give them the attention they deserve. Today we're going to be going over the hip. The hip is another ball and socket joint that is supposed to have a lot of range of motion, but because we sit every day in our sedentary lives, hips get really tight. And you'll see when I'm doing my cars, I actually have some limitation in hip extension that I'm working on. But the same rules apply. We're trying to not move anywhere but the hip. So we're trying to isolate that movement at the hip joint. What I like to do is put something in the back of my knee to keep me honest so that I'm not moving my lower leg and bending or flexing at the knee. I'm just moving at the hip. So I'm going to start with hip flexion, abduction, rotation, extension, and then I'll go back in the other direction. Extension, rotation and abduction, back into hip flexion, and down. So this is another one that's going to be challenging. You may feel a little burning in the muscles on the outside of your hip, but try to do 3 in a row. If you need to take a break, take a break. The key is that we're doing this range of motion every day. It's not how fast you do it, it's about how well you perform the movement. So take it slow, try to go into that range of motion, feel that stretch, feel like you're going into the end of your range of motion. I'm going to start with the knee. We're going to grab the back of our knee to keep our femur from rotating and moving up and down. So we're going to flex all the way, rotate your foot out, so your knee is actually rotating that way. And then you're going to extend, rotate in, flex, rotate out. That's 1 in one direction. And then we'll do rotate in, extend, rotate out, flex. So that's 1 in each direction. You'll do 3 times in each direction. And then you'll move to the ankle, where you're just going to be trying to draw the biggest circle you can with your foot. And then you'll do the same in the opposite direction, 3 times in each direction. So pretty simple, but try to do it to your best ability. Always go to the end range, but don't push into pain. If you have any pinching pain, especially in the ankle, try to skirt the edge of that pain. And then as you do it more, you will gain some range of motion back and control of your ankle, and it'll get better, I promise.